Hello everyone, I hope everybody is doing well. So today we will continue the chapter number 1. If you remember in the last class we started discussing HTML. So I have divided HTML into 3 chapters and today we will discuss the chapter number 1. So we have already started the chapter number 1. So we will continue the chapter number 1. If you remember in the last class we started with the IDE. We started discussing what is IDE, why do we need to use IDE, and which IDE we're going to use. And we have also installed the IDE in the last class. So there are some other website components that we have talked about. I will give you a quick overview like what is client side, what is server side. We have already talked about it. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we have discussed in the last class. If you want to watch the detailed video on level 0, which is the first part of chapter number 1, I have already uploaded the video. So please do watch that video. It's like in our Zoom class, of course. So anyway, so if you remember IDE stands for integrated development environment. So integrated development environment, what exactly it is and why do we use it? So it's basically a software. So it's just like a software suite where which provide you all the tools which are required to build the application. So for example, if you want to build any application like games, website, anything like that, so we typically use IDE. The benefit of IDE is it allows you to do coding. You can do coding, you can do troubleshooting, you can do the testing of the app, etc., etc. And it basically improve the efficiency of the work. Like you don't have to go and find to dry run the app somewhere else. So you got one environment, and in that particular environment, you can test code and dry run the app. All right, that's the main benefit of IDE. So again, why do we use it? What's the reason? Why do we use it? One of the biggest benefit is code autocomplete. What is code autocomplete? You're just gonna write down few words and it will suggest you the other word. So you don't have to write the whole word typically in IDE, especially the IDE that we're gonna use. It increases your productivity of work, and it will definitely simplifies the task. So because you have everything on one platform, so you don't have to move around in different platforms, right? So uh, IDEs, there are a bunch of IDEs that we can use. The most widely and the most common IDE is VS Code. That's the one that we're going to use, the VS Code. We have already installed it, configured it. So I believe everybody should be good with that. If you have any questions, any problems, so please do let me know. We have also installed some extensions which are going to be very helpful for us. One is the live server, which will allow you to run the app. You can run the application when you're doing the coding. And there is another one which is called Prettier. And this Prettier, what it does, it will adjust the standards of the code. For example, the gaps, spaces, and all that stuff. So Prettier typically handles all those sort of things. So this was basically the level 1 that we have already talked about. Some of the component. One very important word is client. Client is basically the person or the user who is going to make a request, right? Server who will entertain the request. If server is located within the local area network, that's called local server. If it is outside, that's called remote server. All right. So we have already talked about a couple of things of that. So client side or the front end, it means like for example something which will run on the client's application. So CSS, HTML, JavaScript, these particular languages or these technologies are typically run on the user side. So for example, when we design a web application, so we will write a HTML code, but this HTML code, JavaScript and CSS will also send to user as well, right? So the people who does the front end or you can say the client side of the front end development, those are called front end engineers. Back end are basically where we use Java, Python, for example the databases, all though or PHP, etc., etc., or called server side or the back end coding. And for example, if anybody who does both of these, like for example who does the front end and the back end, it's called full stack developer, who basically deals with all those. We did discuss what is the role of the browser. Very very important role, because what browser does, browser translates. So let's say if I visit google.com, so your browser, you just send google.com the server a request. Google.com, the server, is going to send HTML code, CSS and JavaScript, like these technical technologies, like technical code. They're going to send it to you. It's going to be very hard for a layman to understand HTML, CSS and all that. So your browser converts them into a web page so you can understand it. So you got a GUI. It's basically offer you a GUI so you can understand it. You can easily see what exactly on that page is. You can click it, you can interact it, you can load the files, etc., etc. Now, if you just want to differentiate HTML with the CSS and JavaScript, let's make it very simple. HTML, imagine this is, for example, your HTML is just like a blank car. It's just like a blank structure of the car, where, I mean, you can see where the tires are, where the engine is going to be installed, etc., etc. You can see the basic structure. That's what HTML is. It has nothing to do with the beauty. It has nothing to do with the organization, etc. So HTML provide you a structure. Content of HTML in our in the web development is going to be text and images that we're going to put it in. And very important thing in HTML is the tag. So HTML controls the display of the data, display of the content, images, links, text by using tags. We're going to see it today. All right, that's the main agenda item. And it basically organizes the data in the form of hierarchy like a tree, right? We'll see that. So we will see that what are the tags tell the browser how to display the data. So tags, for example, P is the paragraph tag. A, it's called anchor tag, which allows maybe the hyperlinks and other things. We'll see that in a bit. So these tags, for example, if you put a paragraph tag and then you write a content, it's going to make a paragraph. We'll see that in our live demo as well. Now, coming to the next thing, cascading style sheet, which is CSS. This is going to be the second part of our course. In CSS, it basically gives a style, a feel. Just like, for example, in the example of car, HTML is the structure, like a gray structure sort of a car, but CSS is gonna control how the car is gonna look, what would be the interior, what would be the color of interior. That's what CSS is gonna do. And how CSS does, CSS basically use selectors, and those selectors are can control, let's say, for example, if you want to increase the size of the text, you want to add some colors on the website, you want to, for example, let's say you want to you want to put some more specific sort of spaces, so everything will be performed with the CSS. So HTML, general structure of the website, but if you want some styling, colors, for example, you want to add some tables, things like that, so you can use by using CSS, even though we can use create tables by using HTML. Now the next is JavaScript. JavaScript, first of all, it has nothing to do with Java, the programming language. What it does, it basically provide interaction. Let me give you a simple example. Java provide, if you have a JavaScripting, what it can do is it can provide some interactions. For example, the cookies, for example, pop-ups, some advertisements which come to the website, some moving content, everything we can get it done by using JavaScript, right? So this is what we have discussed in the last class, and I think we did talk about a couple of things on how to create a website. So it's not mandatory that you have to create a website by using only IDE. Like, so you can also create a website by using text editor, right? We'll see that how we can use text editor to create a website. I think we already did create the text editor by using Apple and by using the Windows computer as well. If you're still struggling, please do let me know, right? So these are some of the steps that we did. HTML and HTM, there's a very fundamental difference between these two. So HTML is the one which we currently use. HTM was outdated. It's kind of obsolete, by the way. So, but still, if you just place .html, HTML, still the web browsers they do understand that as well. This is like how to open the project. Now, most commonly, you will see whenever we place a major file or a main file on our web server, so we typically name it index.html. I'm going to show you how and why do we do that. So how do we do that? First of all, I'm going to actually look for, I have a MacBook, so in my case it is a little different. So you're going to look for Visual Studio. Once you open it up, you can create, integrate, and you can do a couple of things. Well, let me just do one thing. I have already created a couple, but let's do one thing. So first of all, let's say I want to create a new file. So if you want to create a new file, you just have to provide the file type. Let's say .html. So what I did is I want to create a .html file. Now they're asking me where you want to create the .html file. So I'm going to name it, for example, index.html, and let me go to my desktop. I'm going to create it on my desktop, and let's name it, for example, uh, webtech. So the new folder webtech is created on my desktop, create it, and index.html, create. Now this file has been created on my desktop. Now what I can do is I can start coding down here, there is one thing which I'm going to show you in a bit, like how to typically do that and all that stuff. I'm going to show you all those things in a bit. But this is basically called a simple Emmet, and Emmet will actually write down a code for you. You don't have to understand the code right now, but I will write it down and I'll show you how to do that. So, for example, now the next thing is what I'm going to do is let me just sorry about that. All right. So what I'm going to do is in the body, I will explain you all these things. What exactly it is? What does it? This line means. What this line means. What is head? What is the body? So whatever you want to see on your web page, it should be in the body tag. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down here something like maybe let's see if I put a tag here, H1 heading 1, and let's say welcome to web technologies. Welcome to web technologies. All right. So if I want to see how this web page is going to look like, I would right click here. And since I have already installed the plugin, which is called the live server. So if I hit this, open with live server. So it's going to ask me to open this folder to see that. And let me just do one thing. If I open my browser and let me open up 127.0. Let's see. Let me just open that server. Just give me 1 second because the other page has been opened in it. VS Code, let's see file. Let me open the folder here. WebTech, let's open it up. All right, this is my index.html, and let me right click here, open with live server. And let's see. All right, so this is how the web page looks like. That's what it's going to show you. All right. So let me go back to VS Code, and now this is my folder where I have index.html. Now, very importantly, let's say if I create a new file, let's say right click here and let me make a new file. And let's name it, for example, test.html. All right, so there's nothing inside test.html. And if I want to create pre-created code, so I will just put this exclamation, click here, exclamation, and you will see it's called Emmet abbreviation. If you click on it, it's going to create a simple web page code for you. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's say, create here. Let me do one thing here. H1 heading 1 testing only. All right. And now let me right click here. And for example, let's click here. Let me save this. Right click. And let's say open with the live server. So you guys see here, this time the web page is this is the IP address. You guys know that this is for the local host, and that's the port number, and file is test.html. And this is, for example, index.html. But for example, if I try to open up this file, let's see what happens. Do you guys see what happened? By default, it opened my index.html file, even though if you guys see down here, there were two files. There were index.html and there is test.html running on my web tech, the folder. So right now, if you guys see why it opened it up, but if I put here, just like this, and let's say, let me remove this, even this. Still what happened, if I open it up, it still open up this web page index.html. But if I put here /test.html, then you're going to see that it's going to open testing only. But for example, if I remove this and go to this is homepage, it's going to show you this. Why? Because index.html, like this index.html is typically treated like this is like a by default. Most of the browsers, they feel like this is like a homepage. So for SEO, search engine optimization reasons, and for the home directory reason, we use index.html. That's kind of a standard. Like there could be many files, but whenever somebody opens ggc.edu, it's going to open up index.html file by default. You don't have to even provide that. All right. So next thing, which is very important, that's called tags. Very, very important term, tags. So these particular tags, they actually tell like this. If you guys see the whole thing, like this is called the HTML element, like tags and the content. So this is called the element. Tags tells how this particular text, which is my cat is very grumpy, this text is going to be displayed. That's what tag define. Let me show you guys. So for example, if I go to my code and if I write here, let me go to index.html, and let's say from heading, if I make it P, paragraph, this is a paragraph tag, /P, and the tags always go in a pair. So pair mean, for example, if you see starting tag, it's called starting tag, and that's called closing tag. Closing tag is typically represented at forward slash. Now, for example, if we go back to the browser and if I refresh this page, you guys are gonna see welcome to web technologies become a paragraph. Now, for example, if I change the code of just the tag, if I make it, let's say B, B is like bold. If I make it bold, and now if I go up here, you're gonna see that it will become bold. Now, for example, if I make it like a heading one, H1, and let's say H1 this as well, because this is on the live server, you're gonna see that I don't have to refresh, it's gonna do that. So this is basically the job of the tag. So what tag does, tag basically tells the browser how to display the content, which is between the tags. And element means where we have the content plus the tags, right? That's the tag. So tags, specialized code, if you want to write down what's the definition, it's the specialized code which tells browser how to display the content. All right, so that's the main job of the tag. It's specialized code, right? So please do remember, we're going to see this in our quiz. All right, so there could be some nested tags as well, tags between the tags. There is a possibility of that. Let me show you the nested tag option. One, it's called nested tag. Nested tag. So what is nested tag? Nested tag is, for example, heading one. This is heading one, but with the heading one, if I want to make it italic, let me make it italic. So what's going to happen? And now web technologies will be heading one, but you will see that it's going to be italic. You're going to see that. So let's go back here to the web page and let's see what happens. You guys saw it became italic. All right. So that's called nested tag. So we'll discuss those things in detail. So I hope everybody's good with the tags now. The next is emit. So we have already saw the emit, which basically gives the functionality. Like you just put a exclamation and it's going to write down the code for you. So it basically VS Code give you this functionality just to make the thing easy for you, right? This is the basic HTML web page. So if you guys saw here, that was the basic HTML web page. All right, let me explain you line by line what does it mean, so you guys can easily understand it, what exactly all these things. Number one, if you guys see doc type, so basically HTML got different versions. So currently we are using HTML5. So we are using HTML5 version. So it basically tells what type of version it is. And when you put exclamation doc type, it means it tells the browser it is HTML5. All right. This is the language of HTML. It basically the parent, like outside the element. So it tells the language of the web page. Head tag, that's like a metadata. Metadata, or simply you can say the information of the web page, right? If you can put a title here, you can put a metadata, just like properties of the Word file. So head basically contains metadata. Nothing is going to present it or nothing is going to come on the web page if it is between the head tag. Then body is something which is the parent of a content tag. Like whatever you want to see on the web page, it should be between the body tags. So website itself between the body tag, and HTML, like if you guys see, this is like, it doesn't require any closing tag. This is the HTML. You don't have to put even the language. It can work without the language as well. For example, if you see, if I remove this language, just the HTML, all right, if I go up here to the web page, it's going to still work. It's not going to do anything, right? This is just for to maintain the language for the browser. So browser can understand the language if the translation is required. So this is just for the browser, and this is the closing tag for the HTML. So language English, this is just for the reference. You don't have to provide it. This thing is called attribute, right? Attribute mean this is the tag, but having some attribution, some property that browser need to specify. So that's the basic structure of HTML page. So the most important thing, whatever you want to on the web page, it should be between the body tag. All right. Very, very important thing, that's called the MDN documentation. So what is MDN documentation? That's the MDN stand for Mozilla Developer Network, Mozilla Developer Network documentation. So this is the web page. You guys can visit this web page and you will see each and everything on the HTML. So basically the problem is there are a lot of content that you will see, right? So let's say if I open up MDN web docs. So let's say if I go up here, so you're going to see that For HTML, you will find everything on every information about every tag. You will find everything about it, how to use that tag, etc., etc. So this is basically like a formal documentation on HTML. Same goes for CSS and the JavaScript. Like for example, you will find a lot of information about HTML, which is authentic, which is not authentic. So this is like a authentic HTML documentation, which is managed by a couple of companies, but Mozilla is the one who is taking care of it for updating and all that, right? And for example, let me show you one thing here. Let's say I want to study something about, let's say I don't know what this tag, but this tag does. You guys see, if I place on head, you're gonna see that it's gonna redirect me to. But if I click on it and open it up, it's gonna open up MDN for me, so I can study, I can read the details, how to use it, and etc., etc. The very important thing is, because there are a lot of people who teach and you can find a lot of information on HTML. So this is the authentic information on HTML that you guys should familiar with. So the last thing is the comment. How you guys can put, second last, of course, not last. So how you guys can put the comments, how you can put the comments on, and why do we need to put the comments? We need to typically put the comments so we can, for example, let's say we can understand why did I write this line. So for example, and this will not be executed. So when you put the comment, compiler don't run it, browser ignore it, right? So browser, please write, let me write it down. So browsers ignore the comments. So comments are typically ignored. You, let me show you. Let's say if I go up here and if I want to put a comment here. So if you want to put a comment, let me put a comment, exclamation, and for example, minus minus, let's say I'll put here, this is just to remember. All right, so just to remember. So now what's gonna happen? This is gonna be comment, all right? And let's say if we run it, if we go to the browser and take a look, it has not showed up. Why? Because that's a comment. So why do we put a comment? Sometimes we make a logic, we just put couple of things. So it is important to have some memory, just to see why did I write this line. So these comments, compilers, they don't run the comment. They can be multi-line, they can be single line. This is the multi-line comment example. So you can drag it to multiple lines, or it can be on single line as well. So it's up to you how you're gonna write it down. So you can put it on the multi-line as well, unless you close the tag. All right. The last thing about HTML, it is the case sensitive. Case insensitive. Insensitive mean uppercase, lowercase will not make a difference. So this HTML and that's HTML will be exactly the same. So it will not gonna make a difference. So for example, let's say if I go to my code and let's say if I make it H1, uppercase H1, and let's say if I make this uppercase as well, all right? So if we go back to the browser, nothing is gonna happen. It's exactly the same, all right? So for example, if I remove this nested thing, even the italic, so if I remove this, you're gonna see that it will be back. So uppercase and lowercase, they don't make any difference. But it's always a good practice, like you should use the lowercase. That's how typically most of the developers they do. So coming back to the quick revision, what we have discussed. So if anybody is still struggling how to create a web page, how to use IDE, please do see me in the class. I will assist you because we're going to work on a couple of projects using this IDE. Why do we need to use IDE? Because it's going to make much ease for you. You don't have to update the page and save the pages and all that stuff. You can have everything controlled from this central command, right? So this is the main web page. All right, you can open different projects, you can create a new file, you can make a new folder even right here. So let's say I can make a new folder of images, something like this, and I can put images inside it. So, and again, for this images, I can start putting my data inside it. So, or I can, you can delete this particular folder as well, whatever you like to do. All right. So this is one of the beauty. We have discussed what are the tags. Why do we use index.html? No, we know that index.html is considered as a standard name because a web server can have multiple files. So typically index.html is used uh, in order to give a browser an idea. This could be the home page or the main page of the web server, because there can be many pages in the same directory. Directory means folder. Tags, specialized code which tell the browser how to display the content. So we have already discussed all these things. So now the second part, this was all about chapter number 1, part 1. I think we didn't get to a couple of things like case sensitivity, comments. We didn't talk about it. So we will go over. I hope if anybody has any questions, please do let me know. So let me upload another video. All right. So I don't want to overwhelm you with this video. So I'm going to upload another video for the next part, which is chapter number 1, part 2, where we're going to discuss all these tags. Right. Thank you very much.